Hello, this is Tracy Kiernan from Step by Step Painting, and this tutorial is going to show you how to paint this wave painting. It's a sunset wave painting, and you can do this either as a single painting design, so on one canvas, or you could do it as a mirrored image and do it on two different canvases. So these are 9" by 12" canvases, and I did the exact same painting on both of the canvases, and the design is mirrored. So you can make this into a single or even a couples painting since it's close to Valentine's Day. And we're going to go ahead and get started. So like I said, I'm going to be doing this on two 9" by 12" canvases. All of my brushes and paint colors are always listed in the materials section and description. So if you ever need to know all the materials ahead of time, they're always there. And we're going to just go ahead and get started here. On our paintings, we have a horizon line. So we're going to draw out the composition of the wave, and just the composition of the entire painting. And we're starting with the horizon line. So that's the line that's going to divide where our water is and where our sky is. I measured about 3 inches from the top of the canvas, and I'm going to be using this T-square ruler to draw the line. So you can estimate it or you can measure it exactly and draw your horizontal line. So it's about 1/3 of the way down. So this is a 9" canvas, so 1/3. Depending on the size canvas you're using, you might have to do a different estimate. So measure about 1/3 of the way down and do your horizon line all the way across, and make sure the other one on the other canvas is the same position as well. And then we're going to do this wave. So drawing lightly with a pencil first, and we're going to kind of decide where this wave is going to live. It's a very large wave that takes up almost half of the canvas here. So I'm just going to draw this spiral that starts kind of below the horizon line, and it goes to the top of the canvas. And I'm just going to kind of sketch out where I want that inner part of the wave to be. You want to make sure that the wave touches the very top of the canvas. So the top part goes all the way up to the top of the canvas, and the bottom part goes down, but then it gets horizontal on the bottom. And I'm going to make this inner part a little bit wider than I initially did. So there's that horizontal part on the bottom that goes flat with the water. And then we have our curved part that goes curved with the direction of the wave. And I'm going to go ahead and erase that first initial line that I did because it was too thin, and I made my wave a little bit thicker. So keep in mind when you do the sketching that it can always be changed when we start painting it in. I usually don't fill in my lines the way I had drawn it. It's just a guideline to kind of help you with the composition of the painting. And if you're doing this as a dual painting, you're going to go ahead and draw the same wave, but it's going to be a mirror of the previous wave. So go ahead and do your spiral and sketch out the inner outer part. It's got to go to the top of the canvas, and it goes horizontal on the bottom. So it doesn't have to be an exact mirror. It could be, yours is going to be different than your partner's if your partner's painting with you, and that's okay, because that's the beauty of couples paintings, is to have them look kind of different from each other but match up in the middle. So next we're going to be painting the sky. So we're going to start with the sky at the top, and then we'll eventually go down into the water. And I'll be using a 3/4 inch flat brush for this step. It's kind of a large flat brush. And I have 3 colors in this sky. I have medium magenta, titanium white, and cadmium yellow medium. So those 3 colors are going to be used to paint the sky. And they're going to be a blend of colors starting at the top with the pink color. So if you don't like how strong this pink is, you can always grab a little bit of white into it and mix the white into the pink. It'll lighten it up so it's not too bold. But if you like how dark the pink is, you can keep it without the white, so it's up to you. I grabbed a little bit of white on my brush just to soften that pink a little bit. And so we're going to start at the top and do our best to do all horizontal strokes, and we're going to try our best to go around the wave. If you need to paint over your wave a little bit, that's okay, because we'll be painting over our wave when we get to that step. So the sky can go inside of the wave. That's fine. So you're going to go a little bit more than halfway down that sky, and then you're going to grab some yellow on your brush without rinsing it, and you're going to blend that yellow into the pink. So you can gradually introduce that yellow in, paint left and right horizontal strokes to get that yellow to blend with the pink, and go down a little bit, but don't go all the way down to the horizon line. And then when you have a little bit of a gap on the bottom, you'll go ahead and grab the titanium white and gently mix that titanium white into that yellow and gently brush up into the sky. Now with this blending, you can try to have like a towel on hand to wipe your brush, and that's super helpful, especially when your brush gets overloaded. Sometimes it's harder to blend when you have way too much paint on your brush, and if that's the case, you'll want to just wipe it off and add just small amounts of paint to your brush when you're changing the color, and it blends so much easier than if you have tons and tons of paint on your brush. So just a little bit of paint on your brush when you blend. So I'm just going to go ahead and repeat the same thing over here on the right. It's going to end up looking slightly different because when you paint the same thing again, it never looks the same again. And I'm just going to do the same combination with the pink. Grab the yellow to blend the yellow, and then I'll grab the white and blend the white all the way down, and then go around the wave as best as possible. Sometimes it helps you to outline the outer part of the wave, so you could have your stroke kind of curve around the wave and then go back over it with horizontal strokes. I decided to do a second coat on both of these. It's not always necessary to do a second coat, but I did that just to make my pink a little bit more opaque at the top. It was a little bit see-through with the canvas at the top. So I'm just gently blending in some of that pink. And then I'm going to have my sunset kind of be more uniform together. So see how it's not really lined up? What you can do is grab a little bit of titanium white and have little thin strokes of that white go on both of the canvases, left and right, and that little pop of white right there in the middle kind of helps the sunset be more uniform together. Again, that's optional, but I did that so the sunset looked like it lined up better with the colors. So what we're going to do next is we're going to continue our really pretty warm colors down into the ocean. And a lot of the ocean in the middle top part area is reflective. In this painting, it's reflective of the sky. So we're going to actually start with our pink, and I'm going to add white to it as well. Actually, a lot of white to it. So this is about 1 part pink, 1 part white. So half white, half pink. So it's a lighter pink. I'm going to start in the middle, and I'm just going to add that very light pink right there in the middle, just under the horizon line, left and right, and grab a whole bunch of white right there to kind of vary the color. And so I'm using my brush kind of horizontally here and the tip of the brush. And by using it that way, it's creating some water texture. So I'm holding my brush just using the very tip of it horizontally. So I'm not making super thick strokes. The strokes are thin because I'm using the chisel, the tip of that brush. And I'm just going to very gently add this light pink down in the middle. The water is very kind of abstract and loose strokes, but horizontal strokes to get those water texture. And I'm just grabbing a combination of that white and the pink, and I'm just bringing that down to the bottom. Where you drew your wave line, that horizontal part of the wave, I'm not going under that part yet. So I'm not going anywhere, no pink on the wave right now. That wave's going to be a turquoise color, so I want to kind of avoid that area. But I'm going to just keep adding this light pink and the white. Then we're going to do kind of the same thing what we did with the sky and introduce that yellow. I wiped my brush off with a towel and I grabbed a little bit of yellow on my brush. And I know my palette is kind of hiding up there on the top. I didn't realize it was hiding when I was filming this video, but I'm just grabbing yellow on the tip of my brush, and I'm taking that yellow and I'm just gradually painting little short strokes of horizontal yellow into that water. And it's going to make kind of an orangish color because the yellow and pink mixed together will make orange, but just more horizontal strokes in that middle area with that yellow. And you can add a little bit of white in there if you feel like that yellow is too strong. But then we're going to introduce our first cool color in this painting. This is Cobalt Blue Hue. Completely rinse that brush off and dry it and load it with the cobalt. So kind of on the water area that's sort of behind the wave. Again, we're not painting on the wave yet. We still want to go around that wave drawing. But in this area back yonder is more of a cool color in the water. So this is cobalt, just the blue. And we're just going to kind of do the same thing, do horizontal strokes to create the water texture and kind of a larger area to fill in. So if you need to use your brush on its the full width of the brush to really kind of fill in that area first, you can do that. You see how if we move our brush this way, you get the thicker stroke. You can do that to fill it in, and then you can go back over it and add some more horizontal strokes to create the water texture. But we want to be really careful when we introduce this blue into our warm color area. The blue mixed with the pink is fine. That'll make a really pretty sort of purple color, but we want to be careful not to mix the blue with the yellow if you have yellow in that area, because you'll end up getting some green in the water. Unless you want some green in the water, that would be okay, I guess. But just be really gentle with introducing that blue. I'm just kind of gradually bringing it into the middle. I'm adding little horizontal strokes of that blue when I get to sort of the warm color zone in the water, but not going too crazy with that blue in the middle. And then we're just going to kind of repeat that on the right side here, going around that wave. If you need to have your stroke kind of curved to go around it at first, you can, and then go back over and do horizontal strokes. So this area has the cobalt, and then we gradually introduced it into the pink area using all horizontal strokes. If you need to add white to your brush, sometimes if you just grab a little bit of titanium white, it helps with the blending. So I'm loading titanium white right there, and it kind of helps with the blue, kind of introducing the blue into that pink area. And keep doing horizontal strokes all in that area. It's okay if you have white still kind of showing through from the canvas. We'll add more layers of water texture to it later. Next, we're going to work on the wave, and I'm going to wipe my brush off. We don't need to rinse it all the way off unless you want to. So I just wiped it off, and I loaded my palette in the color Turquoise Blue. So it's kind of a dark turquoise. It's a Liquitex Basics Turquoise Blue. And I'm going to take my 3/4 flat, and I'm going to start painting my wave in. So we have this inner part of the wave, and I'm just going to paint it in a curved direction. So just do that curve shape with that turquoise color. And we're going to freshen up some titanium white on our palette because this turquoise is going to quickly blend to a lighter color turquoise. So without rinsing your brush, grab that white and continue to paint these curved strokes with that white, and it turns into this really pretty light turquoise color. And when we do this sort of blending thing, we kind of want to leave the streaks in there. So you see how the dark streaks kind of show up? That's okay. We don't want to get rid of those. It kind of helps with the texture of the wave. But this is all going in a curved direction in the formation of the wave. So this is that lighter color up at the top, and the darker color is towards the middle. So we want our lighter color to essentially blend into that darker color that's in the middle. And so the bottom right corner of our canvas is super light. Upper right corner of the canvas is super light as well. And then grabbing more of that turquoise right there so I can get those colors to kind of blend and mesh in the middle. So I'm going to actually grab this turquoise and really define this spiral line right here. So it's really important that that line is defined, and then we can go ahead and blend it back in with the rest of it. But I'm just using the tip of my brush to get that curve. And it's okay if we paint over our sky a little bit. In fact, sometimes that helps so we don't have any white canvas still showing through. And then I got more titanium white, and I'm just going to take that little bit of white. You only need a tiny bit of white to get this to blend. So don't overload your brush with too much white because then it's just going to take over super fast. So just teeny, teeny, tiny bit amount of white, and then blend the rest of it in with the wave. And at the bottom right here, our water starts going horizontal again. So we can just use our strokes to kind of define the direction of that water right here. So there is some turquoise water in that area, but there's also the Cobalt Blue Hue. So I grabbed a little bit of that cobalt on my brush and I did horizontal strokes in that area so that cobalt is kind of blending with that turquoise at the bottom. And then I'm just going to go in and kind of add some more white in the areas that are kind of on the outer parts of the waves. Blend it, but not over blend it, letting the colors kind of do their thing on the canvas. So right here in this area, I'm just adding a little bit more white to brighten that up. Later on in this painting, I'm going to show you how to paint a little heart reflection in that area. But that's it for the left painting. I'm going to go ahead and repeat the exact same thing I did onto the right painting. So the same thing, it's darker towards the middle right here. So start with the darker turquoise and then make a really thick stroke with that dark turquoise. And then when you're ready, you can grab the white and you can blend the turquoise into the white and have the brightest part of the wave be on the lower right and the upper right. And then remember in this area right here, we have a little bit of that cobalt blue hue that kind of mixes with that turquoise. Next, I'm going to paint some sunset reflection onto the waves, and I'll be using a number 4 round brush for this. Freshen up some titanium white and medium magenta on your palette if you need more of those colors. Start with the titanium white. So I grabbed a little bit of that white on my number 4 round brush, and I'm just going to pick a part of the wave and paint some strokes with the titanium white. I'm not going to do it on the entire wave. I'm just going to pick 2 or 3 spots to do it on. And we'll do the same thing over here. So pick a spot and do some curved strokes with that white on the wave. You could already see how it creates the illusion that it's got a highlight or reflection from the bright part of the sun. And I'm going to let that dry a bit before adding more color to it. I'll bring my paintings close together and do some brighter white reflection lines down in the bottom area. And actually I'm just going to go ahead and add some white reflection lines pretty much all over, mostly in the middle because I know my sun is going to be right there in the middle, so it's going to be reflecting some brighter white lines, but there would be little white lines kind of all over the ocean. I tend to go overboard with my water texture because I love adding layers and layers of colors, so you don't have to keep adding layers to this if you don't want to. But I'm just adding it kind of in the bottom area. And then we can go in and grab some medium magenta, and I'm just going to gently go over those white lines that I created. I'm not trying to cover up the white, it's just kind of adding another layer of color to it. So with that magenta color, it's adding that reflection from the sunset, kind of reflecting on the wave in that area. And then you can grab your yellow as well. Just be careful with the yellow. If your turquoise doesn't seem like it's dry all the way, your yellow might mix and kind of turn green. But try to add that yellow kind of over the white. It also may help if you mix the yellow and white together, and it'll make it kind of more opaque. If it's showing up too green for you over that turquoise, you can just use that white to brighten that yellow up a bit. But just a few strokes here and there. You don't have to do too many on the wave. And then I'm just going to go in and kind of add some more white and yellow kind of on the bottom too as well. So for this sun, I am actually going to mix the yellow and white together about equal amounts. It'll make a sort of pale bright yellow, but that white is going to help it be really opaque and stand out right here. So we can test it out. If it's not showing up, you can add more white or more yellow to it depending on what colors are in your sky in that area. But go ahead and paint your circles so that they meet up. If you're doing this as a single painting, you can pretty much do your sun anywhere. You can do a circle in that corner or make the sun kind of in a different spot along the horizon line. And then you can do a few strokes of water texture lines just under that circle. And I'm just going to go in and add some more water texture lines all throughout and a little bit more on the wave too. Next, I will demonstrate how to add the splash texture to the wave, and I'll be using this brush right here. It's a round bristle brush. It's one of those natural hair sort of scratchy brushes. I call it a scruffy brush sometimes, but I use this for when I want to do texture in trees, but it also works really good for the water texture in this wave painting. So this is really fun. You want to freshen up some of your titanium white and just take the bristle brush and just kind of dab it. You want to dab it on the edges of the wave and kind of all over, but you want to kind of emphasize where the splash would be. It would be on the tip of it and on the edges. And then you want to kind of do your little dabs and clusters and kind of make it spread out a little bit in other areas. And then I'm going to put some more texture kind of in the lower left corner area. And don't be afraid to have some of that splash go outside the lines a little bit. So this right here is going off of the wave where I did not paint it in, but you can have that kind of going outwards and going over the sky a little bit. And you could also even add a little bit of blue into your white if you want to kind of have a variety of color. If you don't want just the bright white, you can have a little bit of turquoise in there, or a little bit of white of light blue. And then I'm just going to repeat the exact same thing over here on the right side for this wave as well. And then another technique that I'm going to show you is the good old-fashioned splatter paint toothbrush. So I'm using the titanium white still, slightly watered down the white so you can kind of wet the brush a little bit first, and then I like to use my finger to apply the paint. I find that kind of helps with the consistency of the paint when you do that. And just splatter the paint pretty much all over. I mean, you can literally have the splashes cover the sun if you wanted to, but I'm kind of emphasizing the little splatters kind of where I did the sponging technique, and then pretty much all over. There's some splatters that kind of cover other parts of the wave as well, but that is super fun and it creates a really pretty effect with the splashing of the wave. Next, I'm just going to go in and do a few touch-ups on the colors on the wave. I actually grabbed an angle brush here. The angle brush did not really work the greatest for this. Painting a rounded stroke with an angle brush is kind of awkward, so I recommend you doing this with a round brush and not the angle brush. But I'm just adding some more reflection color into my wave over here. And then over here, I added some lighter turquoise into the wave in this area. And I did the same thing on this side as well. A few more pops of pink water texture lines way off in the distance over here. Again, this is all touch-ups. You don't have to do all the same touch-ups that I'm doing, but it's just something that I tend to do with my paintings. I go overboard on water texture and try to hold back on touch-ups, but that's really hard to do sometimes. And then I'm just kind of Fixing my horizon line over here under the sun, kind of brightening that up a little bit with some pink and white just under that sun in this area. And a bit more pops of white just under the sun to kind of brighten that reflection up a little bit right down the middle. So if you're doing this together, you could obviously put your paintings together and have your colors kind of match up in the middle. And then I added a few more splashes over here in this zone area right here. So next I'm going to demonstrate that little heart reflection that's down on the bottom. And if you want to do this, simply line your canvases up and use a piece of chalk. So the chalk will erase after the paint dries, but the chalk is just to get a guideline of how you want your reflection to fill in that heart shape. And then you would grab your round brush and some white and yellow paint, and you would just do horizontal water texture lines that fill inside of that heart. So you could just keep doing horizontal lines until it's all filled in. Or if you wanted to just outline the heart, you can do that as well if that kind of helps with the shape of it. So you can outline it and then go back over with more horizontal lines. But you're just emphasizing that that's a brighter area in the water, and it just so happens to form a heart shape. I'll go ahead and push these two paintings apart so you can see how beautiful they look. The heart meets in the middle with the reflection. It's so pretty. And I'm going to do just a few more things, more touch-ups, I know, but I wanted to kind of bring in some darker little water lines in there. So I'm just taking my Cobalt Blue Hue color and just doing some more little lines up there in that sort of brighter area in the distance. And I did the darker lines towards the bottom as well. Then when your painting is dry, you can erase that chalk. You can use a clean wet brush to erase the chalk. You can use a baby wipe or a damp paper towel. The chalk is water soluble. And that is it, my friends. This is the conclusion of the tutorial for how to paint a wave, or how to paint a wave couples edition. And go ahead and sign your name anywhere on the canvas. I have my signature in the lower right on the right painting. But that's it. Thanks for painting with me.